What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique of the Fight Guys. I'm a Forbes contributor and also write for Heavy.com. And I'm here with my fellow Fight Guy, fellow Forbes contributor, and Boxing Manager of the Year candidate, Peter Kahn. What's going on today, PK?
All's good. It's Friday.
Yes.
We have UFC this weekend.
Yes, we do.
So, combat sports is moving forward and some boxing right around the corner. So things are picking up. I'm doing good.
Yes. We are powered by Fight TV and presented by Bet Online. Watching this on YouTube, you should be subscribing. If you have not, you should also be liking the video. If, of course, you like it. I don't want to force you to do something you don't want to do, but I think you should be liking it.
Yeah, you should do it.
That's my thought. And you should also be clicking the notifications bell so that you know when new videos are released. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into round one.
So Brian, UFC on ESPN 9 tomorrow. The weigh-in is now over.
Yes, it is.
And we're just less than 24 hours away from this UFC event. So what do you think about the matchups? What do you think about the event? And regarding the odds, what can you tell us?
Well, yeah, the weigh-ins were earlier today. And for the most part, they went over without much of a hitch. One thing that really stood out to me was that Tyron Woodley, the headliner, somebody who traditionally walks around up around 200 pounds, even though he's fought, pretty much his entire career as a welterweight, was the first on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
First on the scale of 22 fighters. And he jumps on there really quick and makes weight, which to me really, really, really says something about his seriousness, his fitness overall. So I thought that was a really good sign. And he actually didn't, as you can look here, which you can only see so much, obviously, because you can't see his nose and his mouth because he's covered for COVID-19 protection. But he doesn't even look drained. He looks pretty good, so I think that was something that stood out to me. His opponent, Gilbert Durinho Burns, made weight. He shouldn't ever have a hard time making weight. He's fought at 155 for a long period of time, so 170 is probably so much easier of a cut for him, if there's even a cut at all or much of a cut at all. So that was that. Now, we did have one fighter miss weight, and that is Brock Weaver, who I talked about in our preview before. He missed by 1.5 pounds. Now, in contrast, we talked about how good Woodley looked. If you look in Brock Weaver's eyes here, it looks like he tried to make weight and couldn't do it. If you just
Brian, where's the fight?
The fight is in Las Vegas.
Right. So is the fight taking place?
Yes, the fight is taking place. He's going to be penalized 20% of his purse, for not making weight. But there's a couple different ways to miss weight. You miss weight because you say, "Hey, I'm not even going to tax myself like that to try to make it. I know I'm not going to make it, so I'm not even going to bother." And then I'm close enough to the point where I'm going to try, but I may or may not make it. And this Brock Weaver, from the looks of him here, it looks like it's the latter. It looks like he tried and couldn't get down anymore, not healthily. So it'll be interesting to see how he rehydrates back up and how much endurance and fitness he has when he steps into the octagon with this man, which is Roosevelt Roberts, who's a guy that I identified as one of two that I believe future champions on this card, or future potential champions at least. You
liked his boxing skills.
I like his overall game because he's a fantastic grappler and submissions guy as well too. But all fights start on the feet, and he can absolutely handle himself there for sure. So those are the things that stood out for me from a weigh-in standpoint.
Well, before you talk about the odds, so you said Woodley jumped on first,
right?
And that made you feel that he was good, or that, because you could look at it another way, that he just needed to get on there because weight cut maybe it was difficult, just wanted to get on there and then get to the replenishment part.
Well, the reason why I felt like he was good is because from my experience, looking at mixed martial arts, the longer it takes guys or girls to get on the scale, it's because they're pushing this joint all the way as far as they can push it. You don't generally see a main eventer on the scale first. Like that just doesn't normally happen. They don't,
unless they're really struggling, and unless they made weight and they just want to get on and get to replenishment.
Like as soon as, like you're saying. So as soon as I know I'm on weight, let's go.
Because they could feel terrible. They just want to get on and start replenishment.
It could be that, and it absolutely could be that. But he just didn't look like he was compromised. Right. So so if he had stumbled up there and stuff, I've seen some really disturbing images of people making weight, but he didn't look like that. So that is just kind of, and it's just his overall mindset that he's been pretty much showing us leading up to this point. I had every confidence that he looked to be pretty good. So we'll find out for sure on Saturday, though.
So what does BetOnline have regarding odds that stick out to you?
Well, there haven't been a bunch of shifts in regards to the odds. We do see early on when I first did my odds and prediction videos, a lot of the odds weren't even in as of yet. But if you look at the fight here, Daniel Rodriguez against Gabriel Green. Gabriel Green was a late replacement. He stepped in once Kevin Holland was injured. Now, Kevin Holland was the guy who was actually fighting for the second time in 2 weeks in 2 different weight classes, which is totally insane. But he was set to do it, but he hurt his shoulder. So Gabriel Green stepped in for him. Gabriel Green just won the California Extreme Fighting Championship, but he won that title at 155. So he has to come up to 170. So it only makes sense that he's checking in as one of the biggest underdogs on the card at a plus 285. But if you listen to the comment section in our odds and predictions video, there's some people who really believe in Gabriel Green. So we'll find out how that goes. But as of right now, Daniel Rodriguez, after the weigh-ins, his status as a favorite got a little bit wider. He went up to minus 350. Mackenzie Dern dropped from minus 400 to minus 390, which is still a significant favorite, so it's not too much of anything to look too strongly at. Roosevelt Roberts, who we just talked about, is a minus 350 favorite. That's a little bit up. Of course, the reason for that is Brock Weaver missing weight. Odds makers react differently to miss weights. It just depends on the situation. Sometimes if somebody misses weight and they look great at the weigh-ins, I've noticed odds actually go in that person's favor, because there was a statistic that was put out about a couple years ago, and Chris Weidman pointed it out. He was like, I wonder how many times does a fighter miss weight and still win their fight? Because he was alluding to the fact that some of these people are missing weight on purpose to gain an advantage in the octagon. And true enough, there was a startlingly trend pointing towards people missing weight and still winning. So that was interesting to me, but that wasn't the case here with Brock Weaver. The odds went against him because of this. So for the most part, everything else is pretty much the same. Casey Kenny went up a little bit as a minus 270 favorite, but if you watch my predictions videos, which I hope you guys do, I only actually went with 2 underdogs this time. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, it should be an interesting night of fights.
I'm interested in seeing what, and I don't know if I want to call you the Oracle or the Prophet.
Okay? Neither.
I'll come up with a better, come on, it's a term of endearment. Come on, take the compliment.
You know what you should call me?
Tell me.
You should call me Brostrodamus.
We'll call you Brostrodamus. Listen, let me tell you something. If you have a good night tomorrow night,
if I have a good night, yeah,
I bet you we're gonna get a lot of love in the comments.
We'll see. It might be a bad one, so just
be confident.
Do your thing. Do your thing. Hey, you know what? I do my research. I do
and you know what you know.
Yeah, I know what I know. I watch what I watch, and I don't pick with my heart. That's right. That's the biggest key. Well, I don't pick with my heart, because if I pick with my heart, I would say Tyron Woodley's going to win every fight.
Right.
I'd say Demetrius Johnson's going to win every fight. John Jones is going to win every single fight. These are my favorite fighters. Manny Pacquiao would never lose if I pick with my heart. So
you know what I would do? You know, you're just saying that because
Yeah,
you're just trying to kiss out to the Manny fans.
No,
Stop it.
you know what?
You're pandering.
I
You
think
just pandered.
I think I am beyond.
You just pandered.
I think I am of a reprobate.
I'm embarrassed for you.
I think I'm a reprobate with the Pacquiao fans at this point. I cannot be recovered in their mind.
You're in time. You're in timeout.
In their minds, it's nothing I could say that would ever fix it.
Yeah,
but what I got,
you're trying too hard.
Time, no, I'm telling you, I already know it's a pointless case. It's hopeless. Yeah. They will never let me back.
Well, we'll see.
So I have to just be.
I'll talk to them on your behalf. I'll advocate for you.
Well, actually, it was real funny because one of the comments said the Kahn guy usually says bad things about Pacquiao. This time he says good things.
Then they obviously A, don't read anything I write about Pacquiao, or B, listen to anything I say about Pacquiao.
This is what the comment said. It said the Kahn guy. The Kahn guy.
At least you can call me the Kahn man.
The Kahn guy.
It's okay.
I said, well, yeah, the Kahn guy, he can be like that sometimes.
That's cool. Hey, and moving forward, maybe what we can do is, maybe we could start instituting some stay away fights. So where you give the breakdown, but you look at the line value. And you're like, this line's just not, it's something wrong with the line.
Yeah, the Mackenzie Dern fight, I would say, is the one that jumps out to me like that. I said this in my prediction video because at the prediction video time, at that time, she was a minus 400 favorite, and I was like, stay away because the thing of it is I do believe she's gonna win.
Yeah,
but
there's no line value there.
Minus 400 is a lot.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Well, there you go. There's our stay away bet for the night.
Yes, for sure. So with that said, let's jump into our first between the rounds.
Conor McGregor. I'm starting to believe that Conor's smarter than all of us.
Oh.
Like he just sits around, he says, what can I do to make this guy do that? Oh, let me think. All I have to do is go on Twitter, say a bunch of things that have missed apostrophes, poor grammar.
Did you
don't make sense?
You hit him again. This is 2 shows in a row. You have called the grammar police on.
But here's the thing. It's like pushing buttons. Like Conor's pushing buttons because Anderson Silva now decided to weigh in. And get involved in the party on Twitter. And Conor only had 2 words in response, which was, I accept.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know what you think about that whole thing and how you see that playing out in the championship rounds. And, based on what you're seeing and hearing, I just want to know your overall opinion on that fight.
Yeah, for sure. I got 3 points that I'm going to make in the championship rounds. I'm basically tell you what I think about the overall concept, what I think the chances are of it happening, and I'll even tell you who I think is going to win.
Do we have that tweet?
Yes, we do. We do have the tweet from Conor. Conor,
or actually from Anderson.
Well, yeah, it was from. Well, it wasn't actually from Anderson. It was a quote they put from Anderson.
Right. So Anderson Silva calls for Conor McGregor super fight at 176 pounds catch weight. So that's the funny thing is someone else says it, and then of course Conor's accepting their challenge for Anderson, not even really on behalf of Anderson, but he's just I accept.
Right, and the thing of it is that like you said, Conor is very smart because this tweet comes from a Twitter account that is totally dedicated to him, and it's the Mac Life is Conor's. Is to Conor what Fight Hype is to Floyd.
Yeah, he just pulls it out when he needs to stir something up.
Exactly. So that's the way it goes.
All right. Well, that's your between. I can't wait to hear what you have to say in the championship rounds about that because I know you probably have a lot to say, especially since you did your top 5 of all time in our last show.
And I didn't have Conor in it, so it is what it is. All right, so let's go into round 2. I'm probably gonna start getting hate from Conor McGregor. People are saying I get hate from Manny, but it's okay. It's all right. All right. So, Peter.
Yes.
On a recent episode of Network's Stars and Champions, our man Sean Porter, who we've been talking about a lot more lately, he was asked about a couple of potential rematches from his career. So he was asked about Danny Garcia. He was asked about Yordenis Ugas. Okay. And Sean, Sean's an absolute warrior. He is an absolute warrior. Yep. He's a fantastic athlete. He was like an all-state running back in Ohio. Just a fantastic athlete. But he was, when asked about fighting Danny Garcia again, he said maybe. And so if you saw that fight with Danny Garcia, it was a pretty close fight, but I felt Sean won. I felt he outworked Danny, which is kind of Sean's.
It's a good decision.
It's kind of Sean's MO. That's how he wins.
Wasn't it a majority decision?
I believe it was a majority decision. Yes.
It was close, but he earned it.
He earned it, right? And then, but he was asked about fighting Yordenis Ugas. And his answer was quickly no. He said, been there, done that.
Right.
So, which is a very odd answer, because you could say the same thing about Danny Garcia. You've been there, done that as well. So why is that maybe, and why is Yordenis Ugas absolute flat no? Well, I
mean, I have a perspective on that.
I would love to hear it.
So the Danny Garcia fight was a good fight.
Yes, it was.
So I'll agree with you. Sean Porter, absolute warrior. 2-division champion. I mean, he really earned or gained my respect. Earned, whatever you want to say.
Right.
In the Spence fight.
It was a unanimous decision, actually.
Oh, okay. Must have been a close one.
I'm sure it was.
But in the Spence fight, I mean, absolutely, he fought a great fight. Definitely competitive, showed a lot of holes in Spence's game, in my opinion. And he employed a game plan.
It really wasn't as close as I thought, though. He Don Ackerman had it 116-112 for Porter, but then Julie Letterman and Eric Marlinsky had it 115-113.
Right, well, that's 7-5, 7 rounds to 5.
Well, that one is, but
right, but that's there's always that one outlier.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, the Garcia fight, Sean probably felt that it was close. It was competitive, but he won that fight. Now, when he said been there, done that regarding Ugas, sometimes, and we've seen where stylistically, some guys just have trouble with some type of guys.
Yes.
Now, Sean won that fight. We can argue that it was a disputed decision.
Very disputed.
In fact, they didn't even give Sean time to talk afterwards. They cut right out of there. Sean wins. Good night. See you later.
We gotta go.
We gotta go. Right. The overall public sentiment on social media was that Ugas won that fight.
Yes. And Zachary Young scored that fight for Ugas 117-111.
Right. Look, Sean's also smart. That style probably was complicated. Now, regardless of what we think or the fans think, the 3 judges, whatever. So that was a majority decision, right?
Yes, split decision.
Look, it was a close fight. It was a split decision. Yeah. He snuck away with one, but I don't blame him for saying he doesn't want to run that one back.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it too. Because if you talk about risk reward, it just totally doesn't match, because Ugas is not a draw, but he's a tough Cuban fighter who arguably beat you the last time.
Who was it? And I get confused here. Vernon Forrest. Was it Vernon Forrest and I'm trying to think, or was it Shane Mosley? And who was it that Shane fought that was just complicated for him?
Shane couldn't do anything at all with Vernon Forrest.
That's okay. So that's right? For 2 fights.
Yep.
It's just sometimes it's just the style and the
match. That's your guy. That's your guy. You can't beat him.
It's just a style thing.
Yeah.
We've all heard styles make fights, and most fans, they say these things, they don't understand it. Oh, what do you think? Well, styles make fights. Well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Well, styles make fights, but what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
What it means is that some matchups stylistically because of the opposing styles of the fighters, as you know, Brian, make it more difficult for some fighters to simply just be able to overcome.
Yeah.
And it's complicated.
Yeah. Like Marlon Starling was that for Mark Breland.
Right.
He just stylistically, Marlon Starling was a nightmare for Mark Breland. Just a nightmare. So, and you know, it can just be that way.
Yeah. So I understand Sean's point.
Ken Norton was a nightmare matchup for Muhammad Ali.
Anything we thought about Sean in the Ugas fight was erased in the Spence fight. Because that was one of those times where you also hear in boxing, yeah, he lost, but he looked really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
His stock rose.
You know,
why take a step back? Remember, I think you don't ever avenge a win in boxing.
No, you can only go down from there for the most part, unless you Tyson Fury and you knock the guy out. Well, he didn't win.
But you know what I'm saying? You don't go back to avenge wins.
No. You know, I think that Sean may have had, I do definitely believe styles were an issue with Ugas, but it could have also been motivation, because Ugas was clearly a step down from a level of prominence.
Was that the haircut fight?
For Sean?
Yeah.
Sean had braids.
And the weight issue, cutting the hair was that the issue?
I believe it was.
So there just might have been problems too going into that fight for him.
This could have been problems, period. But stylistically, I do think that there was some stuff happening.
You're like, Sean had braids. I'm like, I know he had braids.
Well, no, but you know, early he had the teeny weeny afro, like you know,
right, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, they cut his hair and he made weight.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? But
hey, do what you got to do.
Never miss.
Hey, that's a great passive weight cut.
That's why I never miss weight.
Shave those eyebrows.
Yeah, well, you know, it can be tough.
So what do you think?
Right. I don't know, man. I think that, like I said, it's a risk reward thing, and I just don't think that Ugas has the type of name or will command the type of payday that Porter is looking for at this stage of his career to substantiate that kind of risk. Because Porter goes out and fights Ugas and doesn't get the decision this time, he's popped. Because the rest of the welterweight division, even that little PBC clique, is going to go and move about and move on kind of without him. And Sean's at a place in his career where he really shouldn't be fighting for anything outside of a championship unless he's fighting a name of the level of, like, say, for instance, Manny wasn't the champion.
I was just going to say, though, Pacquiao Porter would be a great fight.
Yeah. And say Manny, wasn't, a champion at all or whatever.
Right.
That would be a fight that would be worth it for him even if it wasn't a championship fight. But, besides that, but yeah, Pacquiao is not going to fight. I don't think Pacquiao is going to fight Sean Porter.
It'd be a great fight.
I think it would be a great fight, but stylistically, that's a really tough fight for Manny because of how ugly and nasty Sean Porter makes fights. So I think that's a tough fight. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that I just thought that was pretty interesting of Sean.
I like everything Sean's saying these days.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. He said, "Nope, been there, done that." Well, you've been there, done Danny Garcia too. So, but what's righty, sir?
Sean's a smart guy.
He's saying a lot. He is saying a lot. But let's go into our second of our Between the Rounds. All right, so combat sports is coming back. There is a lot going on, and it's back. It's scrambling all over the place. So right about now, you might be a newer combat sports fan, and maybe you're adopting it, or you're kind of opening your mind or eyes to it a little bit more, because there's not a lot of other live sports happening right now. We know the NBA and MLB and NFL are kind of coming back, and there's still a lot of, uncertainties around that.
Right.
But you have a choice really to kind of make if you're a combat sports fan, because you may not be the type of person that can say, oh, I'm going to pay the $14, $15, whatever it costs for DAZN. I'm going to pay the $4.99 for ESPN Plus. I'm going to pay the $9.99 for UFC Fight Pass. And I'm going to pay this, and I got a subscription to Showtime. or whatever, and then I'll catch the fights on Fox when they're on PBC and ESPN. So, in your opinion, right now, if you were assessing all of this stuff, where do you think? Where would you advise a combat sports fan to go? You know,
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk to you about in the championship rounds. I want to know what your take is. I'm going to give my take as a consumer who subscribes to all of these different things anyway, partly because I have to cover the sports, but secondly because I love, boxing and MMA. So yeah, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about that.
And you know what? This will be one of those rare times where I probably say a lot more than I'm usually willing to share based on what I know.
All right. Well, that makes it even better.
Even better.
Even better. All right. So let's jump into our round 3. What time is it?
Ask the Fight Guys. We'll do that one today.
Oh, God.
You know that we're going to keep doing this.
It's not getting any better.
It's not, but, partly on purpose. On my back.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, let's go into
with the amount of time that you and I talk to each other.
Yes.
Outside of doing the show.
Yes.
You'd think that one of these times you'd say, PK, let me ask you something. Moving forward.
No.
When I say what time is it?
I don't want to. I don't want.
Can you just say this?
I want it to be organic.
Believe me, it's organic and it never.
You're right. All right. So our Ask the Fight Guys question is this. What are some of the most underrated and underappreciated aspects of the fight game? So this question, I think what it's referring to is just like, fans and people focus on things like wins and losses, which we've talked about before, how it can be somewhat overrated and over focused on. Then they look at things like flash and that sort of thing, and maybe even knockouts. You can even, maybe somebody would suggest that that's overrated. What are some of the things in the fight game that you think are underrated or underappreciated? From
actually inside the ring and octagon, or just overall?
The whole fight game. Just even if it's for financial aspect, the things that people
that's underrated or underappreciated.
Underrated, underappreciated.
I think what most people really don't understand is the preparation that goes into fighting. We all have seen some of the 24/7 and all access and 40 days and all that stuff. But I think that there's an underappreciation for what it's for fighters at the level and even at the championship level that the casual fans are watching, understanding the real sacrifice. Boxing is always this place where, there's always all of these sayings and things about there's always all these analogies to boxing. But the real sacrifice that goes into it, I believe, is underappreciated and underrated. So time away from family, the actual training itself. It's not just running and hitting a heavy bag. These guys are working on basically hand-to-hand combat. Some of these guys are sparring 70 to 100 rounds in preparation of a fight. Keeping yourself healthy, avoiding injury, the mental aspect of fighting. I think, those are all underappreciated, underrated. I think just, a lot of fans take it for granted. The guys, they tune in, the guys show up and they fight. But, aside from what is shown on some of those lead up shows, I think, as an overall sport, and not just those mega fights that people see the behind the scenes. And like I said, people see what they want you to see. I think just the overall preparation, and then the disparity in purse money. The average fighter is not fighting for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But they're taking the same risk. And it's that risk reward that you talked about. They're taking that risk to get themselves in position to be able to make big money. And the odds are against them. Yeah. Statistically, the odds are against them. 1% of the fighters, less than 1%, make pretty much
$1 million.
99% of the money.
$1 million. And probably less than 1% of them make $1 million over the course of their careers, let alone one fight.
I mean, you're going to see guys that are fighting on ESPN coming up. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about Shakur Stevenson or his opponent because that's a main event. Mm-hmm. But you'll see 4 other fights on that show. Mm-hmm. And there'll be guys in 10-round fights that are making $25,000, $30,000.
Yeah.
And by the time they pay a manager and a cut man and a trainer and, pay their taxes, they do that 3 times a year, you could barely get by.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do think that that's, the risk that they take and the sacrifice they make to achieve a dream, I think is truly underappreciated because they're also entertaining people at their own great risk.
Right.
So that's just something I feel. I'm curious to see what you think.
Yeah. For me, definitely, I would say one of the most underrated or underappreciated aspects of it from like, I'm not in the fight game in terms of, doing any, willing and dealing with any of the deals or anything like that. And I'm not training, but I am privy to information about like salaries and the take home. And I think one of the underappreciated things is the risk that goes in and the low pay, which is something I think that you kind of alluded to with the disparity in which, these fighters are actually paid. And I'm going to give you an example of something just really recently. Okay. The last UFC event, because I think UFC guys and girls are the most, dare I say, criminally underpaid of the combat sports athletes. And I say underpaid simply because of what they go through to put on this fight. Now, obviously, nobody breaks your arm and twists your arm until you got to be a mixed martial arts fighter. This is a career you choose, and you understand how much money you can and cannot make. Mm-hmm. But when you consider the fact that they're fighting and the injuries and things that can occur, and you also relate it or compare it to boxing, you're like, wow, really? Like, so the numbers that you just threw out was one thing, but for UFC Fight Night 172, Dante Mays and Rodrigo Nascimento, who actually fought each other. Mm-hmm.
Last week, or was it last week?
Last week, a week and a half ago. I mean, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
$10,000 a piece.
And maybe a victory bonus?
A winning victory bonus, which went to Rodrigo Nascimento, gave him an additional $10,000. And then he got $3,500 of a sponsorship bonus. So for winning, he got $23,500. But for losing, Dante Mays got $13,500. And then that wasn't the only one. Anthony Hernandez, who got stopped in the first round, he took home $16,000. The gentleman who beat him has a little bit of Kevin Holland, who would have gotten another check for Saturday if he hadn't gotten hurt. He made $57,000. Giga Chikadze made $32,000. Erwin Rivera, who was a late replacement, made $15,000. So so you might be, oh, well, those were the prelim guys. Well, if you go all the way up to the top, right, the headliner of the card, Alistair Overeem, who has had over 60 some odd professional fights, made only $415,000 for his fight. Now, $415,000 is really nice take home money, of course. But as you said, you have to that's before he pays training camps, managers, all these, his nutritionist, everybody who has to get paid that helps to prepare him. So he's not going home with $415,000. And you got to think from an experience level, how much he's fought. It's not a lot. It's really just not a lot. And I think that that's the underrated, underappreciated aspect of it, is that I don't think that fans truly realize how lowly compensated many of these fighters are. Conor McGregor, Daniel Cormier, John Jones, Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, those people are true, like they're exceptions to the rule. The majority of the fighters are making. I mean, how many times do you hear from a UFC, and even sometimes in a boxing broadcast, where they're referred to the person's other job?
Right.
Like they're still, oh, you know, when he's not fighting, he's a teacher. When he's not fighting, he's a this or she's a that. It's so if you got a second job, it's more than likely because the first job doesn't pay you enough for it to be your only job. That's just generally how life works.
Right. And
So,
it's always like, you know, not yet. Right.
yeah,
Like
not yet.
Not
I'm
yet.
not ready yet. I mean, Joe Smith,
Still works.
still working construction.
Was it?
No, I think he just quit.
Wasn't Rich
Right.
Franklin a teacher?
Yeah, Rich Franklin was a teacher.
You like
But he's not the
how I
only
knew
one.
that?
You said, how did you know that?
I said, yeah, you should be like excited that I knew that.
Well, I'm very excited. Thank you.
Thank you
very
Thank
much.
you.
He said, yeah.
But no, a lot of guys.
Yeah. And the guy who just fought Brian Boom Kelleher, who had just got a roster spot from the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. O'Day Osborne's a teacher. So it's funny how teachers end up fighting a lot, but it's just funny.
Well, flexible work hours, I guess.
Flexible work hours.
Done by 2, get the summer off. I mean,
a lot of pent up aggression.
But listen, let me tell you something. Don't get us wrong here. Okay.
Yeah.
The question was underappreciated, underrated.
Yes.
Right. However, yes, we will see, like, and I've brought this up before, statistically, there's an average of 2,000 active boxers in every weight division, meaning we're using the average. Some have 2,100, some have, I mean, average, there's about 32,000 active professional fighters. That means boxers that fought in the past 12 months.
Right.
In one of the 16 weight classes. So keeping that in mind, if you look at the number of fighters that have been paid, you know, $1 million payday over the course of the last 12 months, you know,
You could probably name them.
10,
Maybe.
and don't get us wrong, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Manny Pacquiao, Canelo, they've all been, Anthony Joshua on the Forbes list.
Yeah.
But those guys are 4 out of 32,000.
4 out of 32,000.
And they're on the way other side of the spectrum.
Yeah. And the middle class is not so close to the top. It's not really a middle.
Here's the middle class. The middle class for a main event on ESPN, depending on the weight class, could be making $150,000.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the middle class, or maybe there's this upper middle class. Upper middle class is like Adrian Broner.
I still think he's upper class.
Yeah, but he's not
He's in the millions.
He's in the millions, but if at the top of the class or the upper class is Anthony Joshua, Canelo, he's not on that level.
No, but he's upper class.
He's upper class. So he's not upper middle class, he's upper class.
I'd say because he Broner exceeds the $1 million mark always.
Every time he fights. Yeah.
I mean, I would say take a guy like Jaime Munguia. He's probably hovering at $1 million or 1.2 million. That's not a good one. I'm trying to think of someone that's in like the mid hundreds of thousands. You know what I mean? You know,
Charlo.
I think they're both getting more than $1 million. So remember, there's also reported purse and what they're actually getting.
Yeah, what they're actually getting. Absolutely.
You know, the reported purse helps them for various reasons. Yeah. So, but we got to think about that. I'm gonna try to pull some numbers.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. All right, let's jump into our championship rounds.
So, Brian, what is it that you have to say?
Yes.
Because I know you're gonna have a lot to say.
Yes. Well,
about the chess master Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
And Anderson Silva.
Well, the first thing is, I do believe that there's a chance that this fight could happen. What is Conor doing, though? That's the real thing. Conor, in my opinion, knows that he's not elite anymore. He knows. Whether it's because he can't dedicate himself to that because he's just not that hungry anymore, it's one thing. But Conor is at a place right now where he wants to cherry pick older, perhaps easier fights against guys who have names. Donald Cerrone.
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
Sounds so familiar in boxing. I wonder who rings a bell.
Yeah.
Who?
It's a Floyd. It's a Floyd.
Oh, you said it.
It's a Floyd approach. He's gotten to a point where he's made so much money and he's like, I don't want to go out here and take that type of risk.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. The difference with him is he's more aggressive with his posturing than Floyd.
But I would also say Floyd had such a much better career overall.
Oh yeah, Floyd
From top to bottom.
Floyd accomplished way more before he went into cruise control with Conor.
Like, I mean, I'm joking around, but I mean, Floyd's career and Conor's work, you can't even compare.
You can't even compare it. I mean,
one's more novelty versus real.
Conor, honestly, from an in-octagon standpoint, it's like a flash in a pan.
Right.
Really.
But he was marketable.
He was very marketable. He had one ginormous win, and that's the 13-second knockout of Jose Aldo, which a lot of people could suggest that was flukish because they both run to the center of the octagon. They both land left hooks at the same time, but you put your guy to sleep. Yeah. And they both landed flush. So it just was one of those things. He beat up Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez is not, and he was the champion at the time, but he had taken advantage of a compromise of Rafael dos Anjos to get the title.
But wasn't that who he beat like in the last 10 seconds?
No. Who did he beat
right before?
Conor beat Chad Mendes.
Oh, that's what it was in the last.
Yeah, Chad Mendes was controlling Conor with his wrestling.
Right.
But Chad Mendes was coming in as a late replacement for Rafael dos Anjos, who had just gotten hurt. I think it was either dos Anjos or Aldo who had just gotten hurt.
No, it was Aldo. The fight had to get postponed.
Right, fight had to get. But
so they let Conor fight.
Same thing happened with dos Anjos too, but Nate Diaz stepped in for one of those, and then Chad Mendes stepped in for the other one. Right. So he's getting controlled on the ground, but Chad Mendes gasses, and when he gassed, Conor had enough left to stop him late in the third round. But Chad was having a heck of a fight. He cracked him open and everything. So Conor is cherry picking right now, and Anderson is willing to take the bait. Anderson made it easy for him by calling him out. Right now, so many people have called out Conor McGregor over this time period. He has never.
Did Anderson call him out?
Yes.
Or was that?
He said he felt he did an interview, said that he felt that it would be a fantastic fight, a fantastic catch weight fight, and he would love to if the UFC should do it, and so on and so forth. So Anderson made it easy for him, and but this is not unlike Anderson. Anderson does this. He would call guys out, especially older in his life, because he's picking certain challenges himself. Now Anderson has had the type of career where this is what he should be doing at this point. Right. Picking out certain specific challenges.
His body of work is much greater than.
It's not even comparable. It's not even comparable.
Was he 4 or 3 on your list?
He was tied for 5th with Amanda Nunes.
Tied for 5th. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have a problem necessarily with the fight. It's not one I'm jumping to see, but I understand
what fan friendly.
Yeah, I understand where Conor is in his career.
Right.
Conor doesn't want any parts of Justin Gaethje. I'm telling you this right now. Everybody knows he doesn't want any parts of that man. Those guys are at 2 different points in their life. Justin Gaethje is on the hunt, and Conor McGregor is sitting at the table eating dinner. It's very different points of their careers, and Conor's smart enough to know that he doesn't want to get up from dinner and address a guy who is on the hunt, and it's not a fight that's going to end well. Same thing with Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal isn't necessarily on the hunt, but Masvidal is that kind of a presence that is unflappable. Conor's not going to get in Jorge Masvidal's head. So he can do whatever he wants to do. He can say whatever he wants to say. It's not going to matter. Masvidal is going to do the same thing regardless. And I'm telling you, I've said this before. Masvidal fights Conor McGregor. He knocks him out. If Justin Gaethje fights him, he beats him down and ultimately stops him in the 4th or 5th round. If the fight happens at 155, which I don't even think that McGregor can make 155 anymore.
Right.
So,
which is also dangerous.
Yeah.
For him to start accepting higher weight fights simply because he can't make lower weight, because you got to be able to carry that weight and be effective.
And he's done. If he fights Anderson Silva at 176 pounds, you might as well completely cancel his 155-pound career, because it's over.
Right.
It's over. He's not gonna go drop 21 pounds and fight again. Why? That type of dedication. And
Roy did it.
And it didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out.
Yeah, but
tried to get stopped.
That kind of dedication.
Times.
That kind of dedication is a hard sell for somebody as rich as Conor.
Right.
It just is. So I definitely think it's a chance. Dana White did mention, he says Conor and I have not spoken, but usually when Dana is totally against a fight, he shoots it down immediately. No, that ain't happening. You got to convince him. But all he said was, well, I haven't talked to him yet, which means that sounds good to me, because you know what? I think Conor's probably going to beat Anderson Silva, even though the odds were early on that Anderson Silva was favored, which is kind of shocking to me. But yeah, I think that Dana probably thinks that Conor beats Anderson Silva, which can fluff up Conor McGregor for longer and keeps him, as more of a draw for longer. Because I'm going to tell you, if Conor McGregor takes another beating from anybody, it's going to drastically impact his appeal, and it's going to be harder to sell all of what he does. So it's going to be interesting, man. I don't think that, like I said, he's cherry picking. He's not looking for a challenge. He's looking for a name. So, but yeah, our second championship round, this one is about the combat sports networks. I want to hear what you got to say in regards to that. I mean, for me, I know what my approach is, but I want to know what you think.
I mean, right now, ESPN's just winning all over the place. Mm-hmm. Okay, the UFC was the first of all combat sports. I mean, I'm not counting WWE. Okay, I'm counting, MMA and boxing. Mm-hmm. I mean, UFC with ESPN has already been successful.
Yes.
Higher numbers than usual because of the lack of other sports that should have been taking place right now. Mm-hmm. No baseball, or I should say no MLB. I mean, Korean baseball has been pretty entertaining.
And it's actually doing pretty good ratings.
Yeah, well, when people want to watch sports, they will adapt and they will start learning new names and new players, and they want to watch competitive sports.
And so there's some American players there. So
yeah, so they just, they tune in, they enjoy it. But ESPN's winning right now between the programming they have with UFC. Top Rank is the first boxing promotional company out of the major promoters that's coming back. Their first fight is June 9th, as was approved by the Nevada Commission this past Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Then they have shows running every Tuesday and Thursday after that, at least through July. So from June and July, you could expect 15 events, 5 fights per event, 75 fights that you're going to get to watch in the span of 8 weeks from Top Rank and ESPN, and you're going to see competitive fights. The people are getting the calls, and these are competitive fights. So right now I see ESPN winning because DAZN doesn't know what it's going to do yet. Early on, DAZN had announced that it wouldn't start new programming until July. Mm-hmm. Well, I got a text the other day about Ryan Garcia potentially fighting July 4th. But then the rest of the text said, we'll let you know, if that's solid and which network. Like, which network? Isn't Ryan going to fight on DAZN? So it makes me wonder if Golden Boy feels that they just don't want to be patient to wait until DAZN decides when they want to start picking up programming.
Yeah.
And they feel that, look, Top Rank is going to be, 8 shows in, exclusive, because PBC hasn't announced any shows. Mm-hmm. Golden Boy hasn't announced any shows, and Matchroom hasn't announced any shows.
Right.
And Matchroom in the UK, as opposed to Matchroom Boxing in the United States, I mean, the UK is behind us with their quarantine and their COVID-19 numbers.
Yes, very much.
So right now, from a winning standpoint, I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of success with ESPN. Some of the conservative numbers from the inside have expressed that we can expect between 750,000 to 1 million viewers per show.
Yeah, I mean, UFC Fight Night 172, which was not a oh my god card, did 1.15 million
So it's
views.
consistent.
Yeah.
And that's what they were even probably a little bit more conservative, saying 750,000 to 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are going to be just, you're going to see world title fights on Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Which is crazy.
And ESPN,
it's awesome, but it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, look, Top Rank's been very aggressive, and they're ahead of the game, because for these other promoters to start getting back in action, they're going to have to come up with their own COVID plan, their own testing plan. I physically have taken fighters already to get their medicals for a fight on June 16th that are going to be fighting in Las Vegas on one of the Top Rank shows. And part of the test that they had to do yesterday was the antibody test, the rapid test, and then the nose swab.
Yeah.
Which I did with them, by the way, so I'm negative, just before I point it out. But the point is that not only that, but when they get there, there's a protocol and that they're going to follow. So some of these other promoters, you just wonder, you hear these things about what's going on with the zone. I would take it with a grain of salt. But self-admittedly said that they wouldn't be looking to do something until July. Right.
And I think because they are UK based, I think that, the struggles with COVID-19 there are keeping them a little bit behind. Like you said, they're a little bit behind us with their process. So I think that's what you're seeing. But I would agree with you right now. If you look at $4.99 for you ESPN Plus right now,
right,
man, I'm telling you, like, I know that like the main UFC main card is on ESPN, regular ESPN, but you can literally for the $4.99 see every single fight for ESPN, for the UFC, except for the main card of a pay-per-view, which then of course you have to pay extra for. But if you kind of just look at it across the board through the year, not to mention the other content that's there, I would have to agree that for a combat sports fan, that's the one you just kind of got to have. That's the one you just kind of got to have. Yes, it doesn't give you your Showtime fights, doesn't get you the PBC people.
What Showtime fights?
Exactly.
What PBC fights?
Yeah.
PBC very well might announce fights that are going to take place, at some point moving forward on Fox, but Al Heyman might be just taking a wait and see approach.
You're right. He might.
But sometimes it's better to be first.
Sometimes it is better to be first, and I that's kind of goes back to a point I was making a few months ago. Get out there, and if you can get the security and the safety measures put in place, I think that the promotion that gets out there first, which is going to be Top Rank, is going to endear itself, and it's going to endear its stars and fighters to the public in a way that I think is going to ultimately increase each of these fighters' brands and their overall exposure. I believe that. I 100% believe that. So, and I think it'll be sustained somewhat even once some of the other fighters start to come back.
And let me tell you why that's important, Brian. Little history.
Yeah.
There's one soft drink company during World War II.
Yeah.
That decided to send free soft drinks to the servicemen and women.
Absolutely.
You know who that was?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Yep.
When those servicemen and women came back, their brand loyalty put Coca-Cola ahead, and they've never lost market share since.
Yep.
To your point of endearing the fans, saying, look, some guys might test positive, fights might get scratched. Hey, they're trying. And they're putting guys back to work.
Yeah. And combat sports people, period. This is how their mindsets are. They don't want to sacrifice humanity or anything like that, but they do really, really, really want to see the sports back. And if you are willing to work and I'm telling you, this is why, people can take shots at Dana, and he definitely deserves it a lot because some of the crazy things that he's said and done and ways he's carried himself in certain ways. But, This dude is a monster when it comes to being determined and his work ethic to get things done and to not take no for an answer. See, people are made differently. You know, people are just cut differently. This dude is the kind of guy who has the audacity not to take no, not to take the first 2, 3, 4, 5 no answers for an answer. He's going to keep coming. He's going to keep doing it until he gets what he wants. And for some people, that's maniacal and too much. But for other people, it's how you produce. You know, it's how you produce. And I think fans of mixed martial arts, whether they like him or not, have to have some level of appreciation for the way he's approached it. So,
and Brian, and for some people, it's put food on the table.
For a lot of people,
so his determination and no, you know, not taking no for an answer and putting safety measures in place has kept a lot of people back in business.
Yeah, and because he said the UFC is not going to do any layoffs.
And listen, you know, I'll give Top Rank credit because Bob Arum is floating the concept. You know, I'm just hearing this from other fighters and managers and fathers, etc., that are reaching out to me. Hey, what do you think about this? You know, they might do a $40 pay-per-view.
Yeah,
cut the guarantee a little bit, and then we would participate on the back end. That's going to allow some bigger fights to happen.
This is the stuff I was saying, though, Pete. This is the stuff I was saying. Getting creative. Deciding to approach these things from breaking some of these molds that have always been, because this time is not what has always been.
So let me give you a scenario. What if we got Lomachenko Lopez for $40 for $39.99?
Man, people will lose their minds, and people are gonna
almost half off. It is half off
for the HD version too.
Yeah, half off.
Man,
imagine if you get it at $39.99.
That kind of stuff. I'm going to tell you something, and we're going to wrap up soon because we don't want to have a super long show. But going to the sports video game world, Madden has dominated the whole NFL scene forever. Now they just recently re-upped their exclusive rights license to do simulation football games. So there will not be another NFL football game, not a simulation NFL football game, before at least 2026 besides Madden. They have cornered the market and they are saying, you know, nobody else is going to even be able to make a game like this. But you know what precipitated this deal originally was NFL 2K came out and they knew that Madden was the football game. And if we're going to get in here and get any market share, we can't come in here with the same price, because so many people are already just, their life and their whole connection to the game is just playing Madden. So what we need to do is, we know we got a good product. We need to get people to try it. So they came out, and NFL 2K and all of their 2K games when they first started were $19.99. Which is literally $40 cheaper than what the games cost, $59.99. Right. And it caused a surge. And then they did their jobs by making a quality product that people really, really liked. And then so what EA did was like, oh, really? And they started literally noticing they were losing some level of the market share. And before they could lose more of it that they were comfortable with, they approached EA and they approached the NFL and said, hey, well, what do you think? Or actually, it was the other way around. The NFL noticed it and came to EA and said, well, hey, if you want to eliminate your competition, we'll give you exclusive rights, but this is how much it'll cost.
Right.
And so they paid to eliminate the competition. So
imagine this. Imagine you get, I'm just using it hypothetically because it's sort of like next up on the list, right? Next up on the runway. You get Lomachenko Lopez, undisputed lightweight championship of the world, say $39.99. And the fighters, instead of getting, I'm just using this as an example, instead of getting a $4 million guarantee, you're getting a $2 million guarantee. But you're going to get some points on the pay-per-view. You don't think these guys are going to promote this pay-per-view like crazy?
Yeah, because it's now you have a vested interest in it.
You got skin in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have just as much to lose as you do the game.
This is what I'm talking about, man. Just getting creative, everybody's got to do things different ways than you used to do it. If we all want to make as much money as possible out of this time, you know, because if you think about it, the fighters are the ones really that they don't have the leverage, because you don't win. First of all, you don't get paid if you don't fight. Second of all, you have to worry about your vitality as a fighter. My vitality as a promoter is much longer. My career span as a promoter is 3, 4, 5 times as long as yours as a fighter.
Yeah, the window is
whatever. So once you start to get older, now I'm literally losing time. I'm losing earning potential. So, it is what it is. And I think this was fascinating information and conversation, especially about this part, and then also about some of the things that are underrated and underappreciated.
Yeah, so I'm just a little disappointed, though.
You were a little disappointed. What?
I didn't get to argue with you today.
Well,
just saying.
You could make up something.
All right. Well, next Monday,
you could be like, Tyron Woodley gonna lose, and I'm gonna tell you why.
I probably wouldn't say it like that. However,
well, you should. That would have made it better.
No, this was great. This was great.
All right. Yes, for sure. But we appreciate you guys watching for sure. Make sure that you tune in if you didn't get an opportunity yet to see the odds and prediction videos for UFC on ESPN 9. Make sure you tune in and check those out. Also on Saturday night, after the show, after UFC on ESPN 9, make sure you tune in to watch my recap of the entire event. I will be, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to introduce some awards. Give up my own awards. I know we already have a performance of the night and the fight of the night. I'm going to come up with some totally Mazique centric awards.
Can we also put up your wins-loss record?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that.
Let's keep a running tally, not just because you're doing great, but I just know I'm just confident, man. I'm confident in my partner here.
I want to see what happens. So we'll see. We'll see. But yes, for my man, Peter Kahn, we appreciate you watching as always. God bless you and peace, and be safe in every way, shape, or form. Be safe. Peace.